This is Alfa Romeo's brand new SUV model, the Stelvio. And I must say, from the outside, things are looking good. However, there is a problem. In this SUV-crazed market, hardly anyone is buying the Stelvio. Last month, Audi sold almost 5 times as many Q5s as Alfa sold Stelvios. Now you may be thinking, oh, it's probably just a supply issue. They don't have enough to sell. Not so much. The Alfa dealer in the sprawling metropolis of Florence, Kentucky has 62 Stelvios in stock, and every single one of them has a boatload of cash on the hood. In comparison, the local Audi dealer just has 21 Q5s, and they'll only give you $2,300 off. So what gives? Why isn't the Stelvio flying out of showrooms? I suspect there are several factors holding back the Stelvio, but one of the biggest problems might be the badge on the hood, and for a few different reasons. The first being brand recognition, or rather, lack thereof. Now, the average automotive enthusiast has long revered the Alfa Romeo name, but the average shopper looking for a lease deal on an entry-spec luxury SUV has no idea what Alfa Romeo is. In fact, I told a friend of mine who's not into cars I was getting this Stelvio, and he asked me if Alfa Romeo was a new car brand. And that's a big problem, especially for a luxury marque like Alfa Romeo. People that spend big money on shiny objects like to show them off, and that's kind of hard to do when you have to explain what your shiny object is and why people should be impressed with it. Admittedly, there's still a small subset of the general population that knows and remembers the Alfa Romeo brand, but their brand perception isn't much to hang your hat on. Alfas of yore were tremendous to drive, but only for brief periods between breakdowns. And that reliability issue is still dogging Alfa Romeo today, even though they haven't been sold in the United States for over 2 decades. For my next theory on why the Stelvio isn't selling, I'm going to circle back to something I mentioned earlier. Auto enthusiasts love Alfa Romeo. That's as sure as death and taxes. But I don't think enthusiasts are going to drive Stelvio sales. That's because the kind of person that loves Alfa Romeo also hates crossover utility vehicles. After all, a wagon has just as much cargo room as a stupid SUV, and it looks cooler and drives a million times better. A Giulia wagon, sure, but a Stelvio crossover? I think that's going to be a hard pass from the enthusiasts. The inside of the Stelvio looks just as good as the outside, with this stitched leather and these fine wood accents. But there are problems to be found in here, the biggest of which is this, the Stelvio's infotainment system. Now, tech has become the new measure of luxury, and in this area, the Stelvio is simply lagging behind. There's no other way to put it. This infotainment system is terrible. Nothing is easy to do, and you've got to use this cheap-feeling wheel thing in the center console to browse through the Stelvio's maze of functions. For example, want to tune to your favorite Sirius XM station? So we determined this little knob and wheel in the middle here isn't very easy to use. So I'm going to try the voice commands. I'm on channel 36 and I'm going to try to get it to channel 34. So I'm going to hit the button. Tune to channel 34.
Tuning to 1030 AM.
Oh dear. Maybe I have to say the station name? Tune to lithium.
Tuning to FM.
No, that's all right. Let's try again. Tune to channel 34 on Sirius XM.
Please try again.
Tune to lithium on Sirius XM.
Tuning to satellite.
It's the wrong station, though. Tune to channel 34, please. Set destination. Oh, this is just hopeless. And there's no workaround for this system because it doesn't support Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And it's not like FCA doesn't have a good infotainment system. They have Uconnect, and they put it in virtually everything. Even Maserati gets it. Why couldn't they put it in this? In the Giulia Quadrifoglio, I was able to overlook the awful infotainment because it was just so lovely to drive. But the Stelvio doesn't have that benefit. But I will start with the positive. Alfa did a really good job tuning the Stelvio suspension. It's surprisingly comfortable, but it still feels sporty. But everything else is kind of a mess. Now, a few weeks ago, I drove the Giulia Quadrifoglio, and I was complaining about the spongy brakes in it, but I just chalked it up to the optional carbon ceramic brakes. But I think it has more to do with Alfa's brake-by-wire system, which is also used in this car. There's nothing physical connecting the brake pedal to the brakes. It's all electronic now. So the brake pedal is very vague, and it doesn't help that there's kind of this dead feeling where nothing really happens, and all of a sudden the brakes bite. It's really hard to brake smoothly. And the gas pedal's not that enjoyable either. It's got this weird spring-loaded feeling where it feels like it's pushing back on my foot. And it's really difficult to judge how hard I should be pressing the pedal to pull into traffic or merge on the highway, situations like that. And this engine is surprisingly peaky. There's kind of no power down low, and then it all comes on at the top of the revs. It feels like an old school turbo engine, not a modern one. And then there's this steering, which is really fast and responsive, like you'd expect from an Alfa, but it's also really fast like you wouldn't expect from a generic luxury SUV. It honestly feels like they plucked this rack straight from the Quadrifoglio. It's just too quick. It feels nervous all the time. There's a reason BMW doesn't put the M3 steering rack in the X3. They know their target audience. At the end of the day, this is a luxury SUV. People just want to relax and enjoy this nice leather on their way home from work. It's really hard to do with this nervous steering. Another annoyance I've noticed with the Stelvio is this power driver's seat that slides back a little bit every time you turn off the car. Now, I've looked in the infotainment, I've looked through the owner's manual, I can't find any way to turn this off. There could be a way, but I spent a lot of time and I couldn't find it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. You press the start-stop button here, stop the engine. The seat whirs back with the intention to make it easier to get out, but that creates a couple problems. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So here I am in the back seat, sitting behind my normal driving position. I don't have a ton of room, but I'm comfortable. My knees aren't hitting the seat. I could ride around in here. But let's say we get to wherever we're going. The driver shuts off the car, opens the door. I'm still getting something out of here. Let's see what happens to my legroom. Shut the car off, open the door, slides back where I had adequate legroom. Oh, I'm now being smashed by the seat. And it has another consequence. Let's say you need to fold down this seat for a little more storage. Got something big to put in the trunk. Oh dear, it's now slid back and I can't do that. Here's another interesting quirk I've discovered in the Stelvio. Now, the power trunk button is located right here next to the window. It's actually pretty convenient to put it here, but it's not an automatic down for some reason. So if I push this down and then I let go, it stops. So you have to hold it down. So let's say I'm closing it. Oh, I think I've got it, I'll stop there. Oh, didn't quite go all the way. Once it's to that level, it won't close. Now I have to reopen it. Wait for that. Now it's up. Now I can go down again. Now if I hold it for the entire time, it should latch. And there you go. But if for some reason you accidentally stop, you let your finger off for a second there close to the end, you're gonna have to reopen it and then close it again. And that's pretty annoying. I don't even know why it's not auto down. It doesn't make sense. And finally, we have to talk about what's under hood and what isn't. Now, the Stelvio's got the bottom end and the top end of the segment pretty well covered. This is a 280 horsepower turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which is good for best-in-class standard power. And at the top end, the Quadrifoglio model's got 505 horsepower, which is also class-leading. But it's kind of the space in between where the Stelvio's really lacking. All the main competition in this segment, the BMW X3, Audi Q5, even the Jaguar F-Pace, have some kind of 6-cylinder variant with over 350 horsepower. And those models really aren't any more expensive than a well-optioned Stelvio. They're all about in the mid-$50,000 range. So to get the Stelvio, you're gonna have to give up at least 70 horsepower. That's kind of an odd proposition for a performance-minded SUV. So there it is, the 2018 Alfa Romeo Stelvio, a very pretty SUV that hardly anyone's buying, and with good reason. But luckily for Alfa Romeo, I've devised a quick fix for the Stelvio. All Alfa has to do is equip all models with the Quadrifoglio motor, because that engine is so good, nobody's gonna care about anything else. Bad infotainment, I've got 505 horsepower. You're welcome, Alfa. You can have that tip for free.